This is DJ.
And this is Ish.
And this is
Season 6 of
Pero Let Me Tell You.
Gente, so we are here today with direct from ABC News. We're here with Stephanie Ramos. Thank you so much for joining us. I know you do some some work with GMA, which means you've probably been awake for 42 hours at this point that we're doing this interview. So the fact that you agreed to it, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Of course. It's an honor to be with you. Thank you so much for the invitation. I really appreciate it. And sometimes I am up for that long. And sometimes I do have some really long days. And then there are other times where it's a little slower. So it's a balance that I'm still trying to work on.
Well, you look like you figured it out because you look phenomenal. So thanks for figuring how to work us into the schedule, if nothing else. So
absolutely, anything from my Miami people.
Well, we love you here in Miami. We love you. We're big on Latinos here in Miami, but we're even bigger on Latinos in Pero Let Me Tell You. So can't wait to chat you up. But I want to talk about specifically with you because you've had such a great career in journalism. And again, you're on GMA right now. But one of the things that I found out was not only are you a military member, which, and I know it sounds very trite, but thank you for your service. I know that
Thanks for the support.
It sounds so pithy to say it out loud, but it's like I genuinely mean it. How did that?
And I genuinely appreciate it because being that I've been in the Army Reserve for 21 years now, I have heard that a lot. But I appreciate it every single time someone says it because it has been hard to have a full-time, 2 careers basically. So I do appreciate it. So thanks for saying that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for again, we could go on this thank you circle forever, right?
Pleasantry station.
But what I found fascinating is that you signed up like right after 9/11. So you were one of those who felt, called to action and compelled in the wake of that horrible incident. As a New Yorker yourself, you obviously felt something stirring inside of you. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because you were also at the time studying journalism. So you weren't like somebody who went into the military and then said, okay, now I'm out of the military, let's figure something out. No, you were working in parallel.
You're exactly right. And you've done your research because it was soon after 9/11 when I decided to join the Army Reserve. I was in college at the time. I was majoring in broadcast journalism. And growing up here in New York City, I had always been very involved in the performing arts. So I went to performing arts high school. I was auditioning. I wanted to be on Broadway part-time if I could because I wanted to do so many other things like being in Muse. And then 9/11 happened and everything just stopped. I remember this as if it were yesterday. I couldn't believe that something like this had happened to my city, that had happened in this country. I was in shock. I remember I had a part-time job at the South Street Seaport, which is in downtown Manhattan, and you could basically always see the towers from there. It's right there. It's walking distance. And it was just, the Twin Towers were always such a part of my life that I couldn't believe it. And it was in that moment that I said, I want to be a part of something larger. I want to be a part of this organization that can defend our country. And that's where that patriotism really kicked in. And I joined in 2002. I was about to graduate. I was close to graduating from college, but I went in the summertime, did basic training in the summer, came back, finished my senior year in college. And my route was a little different when it comes to commissioning into the Army Reserve. But I basically did ROTC in graduate school because I knew that journalism was also my passion. It was my passion. Like I knew it early on. I knew that this was the field that I wanted to go in. But now I was faced with this influence, this military influence. So like you said, I started both careers at the same time. I said, I think I can do this. I was actually a few weeks shy of going into the Marine Corps. And I ran into some Army folks at a career fair that I was at with with my friends. It was college career fair, and walked by the Army table. Those guys were good. Those were actually some really good recruiters because they
They must be.
they
You were
stopped
like, you were
me.
on your way to the Marines. Like they had
I
to
was
have,
on my
yeah.
way to the Marines. I had done everything. I had taken all their tests, their physical fitness tests. I was going to the Marine Officer Corps, and also, about to graduate with a journalism degree. And they stopped me and my friends, and I said, "Oh, no, I'm good. I know what my path is. Like, I've got it all figured out. I'm going to the Marines." And they're like, wait. Hold on a second. Let's lay out what the Army has to offer for you. And it just turned out to be a better plan. I was able to start both careers simultaneously because I chose the Army. With the Marine Corps, they've got a great uniform. I love the Marine Corps.
Who doesn't love it? Who doesn't love that uniform?
I love it. But as an officer, right away, you have to serve 4 active duty years before you can go into the reserve and then be a part-time officer. With the Army, you can join the officer corps and be in the reserves from the jump right away,
Did
which
not know that.
would allow me, to start my journalism career at the same time. So that's what we did. That's what I did. And I commissioned as a second lieutenant in 2005 in the Army Reserve, and also got my master's degree at that point, and then started working for NBC right away. I was in the Page program, met my husband there. Is the one thing I got from that Page program, and just worked all over the country in news, and then each step of the way looking for a different reserve unit, and also managing my career in the Army at the same time, and figuring out when I can do what course in order to get promoted. And now I'm a major. I've been in for, like I said, 21 years, and it seems to have worked out.
Yeah, well, I mean, you seem to have,
It wasn't easy.
Well, but I think again, part of me says, how much of that is that like Latino hustle, right? Where you're just like, I need to be doing multiple things at once, and you focus and you divide your energies accordingly, but you have a certain, for lack of a better word, discipline that I think, the Army refines, obviously, because they don't mess around when it comes to discipline. But I think that also can just help you focus in all aspects of life. Not having been in the military at all, please tell me if I'm wrong. But, when it comes to journalism, it's very easy to get overwhelmed, I would imagine, because there's just a lot going on and breaking news and running and going. And if you don't have a certain mental capacity of like, stop, take a breath, organize, it's very easy to just get flustered, I would imagine.
You're absolutely right. And I think that time in the military did refine some of that discipline. I will say my Dominican mother really instilled that discipline and that hustle and that, muchacha, vas a hacer esto, no, va para acá, siempre ocupada, and always that motivation there to just keep going forward and doing the things that she wasn't able to do. And just that exposure to the arts that all came from her, like everything, like leading up to those college years where I was able to then make my own decisions. And she was, she and the rest of my family were supportive every step of the way. I mean, she was a big influence. She really was able to instill that foundation and that discipline where, once I went off into the military and completed all the trainings and everything, that kind of refined and made me who I am today. But you're absolutely right. I mean, working in news, you have, it takes a certain type of person because it's not easy. It's not glamorous like what you see on TV. It's like, that's the finished product.
Right.
When I report for GMA or report for World News Tonight or any other platform at ABC, Nightline, ABC News Live, what you see on TV, that's the end. That's where I'm really taking a sigh of relief and a break. And I'm like, all right, now let's talk about it. Let's just tell you people what I've been working on for the last few hours that have been nutty, that have been stressful. But I pride myself on being able to just stay composed and not get flustered in stressful situations when you're in front of the camera and you're about to go live and somebody says, wait, we can't see you, we can't hear you, we can't see you, we can't, like, what do you do in that moment? Well, I'm going to focus on me. Here's what I have to say. If we come back, we come back. If we don't, somebody else is going to have to deal with it. Just so many different so many different circumstances where things can go really wrong and you can just lose your stuff, where you just have to stay calm, be unflappable, and just take a breath. You know what you're talking about. It's all about preparation. So
that's the key. That's the key. It's if you're not prepared,
that's the
then
key.
it's all going to fall apart.
Exactly.
You know, you mentioned that journalism was always your passion. And where did that passion come from? Because I based on what you're saying, I think, one could make the argument of like, well, you also, went to performing arts school. Please tell me it was the LaGuardia one, the one for fame. Was it?
My mother went to LaGuardia.
Oh.
My mother went to LaGuardia Music and Art. She was a vocal major. I went to the baby version of that school because they went from 6 to 12. So my mom, put me in there early on, and then I just stayed there. She's like, just stay there, it's fine. I was going to transfer, but anyway, I decided to stay till graduation. But it's nearby. It's on 48th and 8th Street. But yeah, my mom went there, and she always talks about it. Beautiful school.
Yeah, but sorry, where I was going was, one could say, well, the passion of journalism, was that an extension of that performing, that wanting to perform, and then kind of pivoting to say, well, this is a way to, I don't want to, reduce it, but to perform while also actually providing a service, right? Where it's like, there's a performance element to it, but it's not just like, here I am, here's a song and dance. Here, it's more about here, I'm giving back. Was that something that appealed to you, or am I overreaching?
No, you nailed it. You're absolutely right. It was an extension of that, because there was a part of me that wanted to be out there, that wanted to be on a stage. I sing. I've been singing since a young age. I wanted to perform.
I saw
but then
it on your
after a few
Instagram, by
years,
the way, that it says like you're like a sometime singer, and I want to hear the sometime singing. I just want to say, I put it out there.
Okay. Yes. I mean, I was trained and but after a few years, like you said, I kind of wanted to have a bigger impact. I wanted to represent my community. I grew up watching the news and watching local news, and I never really saw any Latinos. So I was like, wait, how can I combine the two? And it's interesting, because now being in this field, I run into a lot of on-air folks that do have a performing background. I think you kind of need that. You kind of need that, just being in your own bubble, going out there and talking in front of anybody, and it does have a little bit of that performance aspect, but I think that definitely helped. But it's a combo deal. So I was able to put that together my early years in school, but then, like you said, after 9/11, it was like, well, what else can I do? And that was just like my trajectory, just those three paths just kind of coming together for the last 2 decades.
Yeah, and I have to say, about representing your community, there was a certain sense of pride for me, seeing you and Gio Benitez, hosting GMA3, where I was like, oh, okay, this is like Latino, like representation across the board. And it's on ABC. That's the
Can you believe that?
I mean, did you have a moment to kind of step back and take all that in for what it was in that moment? I mean, I know there was a lot going on all around at that time, but that specificity of like, representation at that level.
I did. And you're right. That was a whirlwind of a week, but there was that moment where it was like, wait, hold up, homie. Do you see what's happening here? Wait. You're from Miami. You're cute. How is this happening here? And I think it's a sign of not just the times, but how hard we work.
Damn
I mean,
right.
Gio Benitez is a dear friend, and gosh, he works so hard. And I mean, we know each other's story. I mean, I joined ABC almost a decade ago, and it was a climb to get here. Like, this is the dream job. Like, I can't even believe that it happened, because I spent so many years thinking, when I was in local news, and then finally when I joined ABC, thinking, okay, this is where I want to be. This is what I'm going to do. But, there's always that little voice in the back of your head that's like, it ain't really going to happen, but you could try.
Right.
So, and that's what I did. I'm like, okay, well, there were a lot of 7-day work weeks, and there was a a lot of yeses, like, yes, I'll do that. Yes, I'll do that. Yes,
Right.
I haven't slept in a few days, but I will do that for you. I will be here. And it was kind of, that week or that first day seeing, Gio, it was kind of just all culminating where it's like, oh my goodness, like it's wild that we are the ones that got that call
Right.
and are the faces of, that we are being chosen to kind of represent this show for the time being. But just even that on a national level, it is wild. It is wild. And you've just reminded me. So now I don't know what to say because I'm still flabbergasted because I hadn't had a chance to really think about it. But I'm so glad that Gio and I had that moment.
Well, I'm glad you guys
really
did
neat.
as well. And I say that as, excuse me, as a, fellow Latino who sometimes it's weird because you've got that, that immigrant mentality that's drilled into you, right? Of like, you just got to work hard. You got to go. But then there's also that little voice that what they call, what is impostor syndrome, right? Where you're constantly, at least I am, trying to battle them out and tap down one while building up the other, but also building up the other in a way that doesn't make you burn out. And it's a struggle. I mean, for me, and I'm not at the level that you guys are. So I take my hat off to both of you because without knowing you, I know what it took for you two to get to that point. And I don't know you personally, but I know what it took for you. And and as a woman, that's let's add another layer to the mix, right?
Right. It is a struggle. It's especially when you are navigating a brand new world. I mean, I worked in local news for a few years. I joined ABC in 2015. And you get tips here and there, but when I look back at that time, I'm like, wow, I did not know this system. Like I really just put my head down and worked. I got a story assigned. I went, hey, can you hop on a plane and go cover this breaking news story? Yes, I will be there. And then getting there, knowing the editorial, knowing who I was talking to, because at that time I was working with the affiliates, and just knowing the job. Like that was the focus for so many years, kind of unaware of what others are getting, what type of mentorship is being provided to somebody else, what, and it's like, wow, and then you really have to and this is advice to anybody who's starting out in the business, you just know the job. Nobody can deny you of that dream job, that dream position, if you know the job, if you are prepared.
Right.
And I hate to, this sounds very cliche, hard work pays off, because for some it may not, unfortunately, but it in this case it has. It's like with my dear friend Gio and myself, it's like, wow, this really did happen. And sometimes I look back on it, I'm like, how, I guess it was, it was all those years of just saying yes and coming back home after a story and my husband asking me, hey, did you nail it? I'm like, yeah. And like, and even, having that support system, reminds me, having that support system, I mean, huge.
Yeah.
Like my family lives in Miami. I can't tell you the amount of times that my mom or my sisters have like come here to stay with my kids while my husband works. And we've just made it work all of these years. And they've supported me so that I could be here. And sometimes I'll get the call to go on a story and just like, oh my goodness, I had this planned, but I have to go. I know it's a job and I love the job. And my husband will come in, he'll kind of feel that and he'll say, hey, you go. I'm getting in the Uber with my stuff. He's like, go, do a fantastic job, nail it, because that's why we are here.
Right.
And that helps. So you have to have that village.
Yeah, no, support goes a long way. And I think maybe because as Latinos, we're so used to having that for the most part, like you said, your mom just being like, all right, ¿cuándo voy para allá a cuidar los niños? I'm sure that's like drop of a hat almost. If she could teleport, she would, right? That's just, we're used to it. And we don't give it the credit that it deserves because not everybody has that.
Right. I mean, I know other, folks early on in my career that other women that took a different route because it was just too much. And it can be too much when you have kids, when you have a home and a husband, it can be, but you do need that support. And I'm thankful for my sisters and my mom for being able to, support me in that way. And that just shows, I mean, that's been my mom from the very start. Just there. Una mamá muy buena.
Well, now that she lives, I know she lives in Miami. Like, I'm gonna have to find her and have a cafecito and just congratulate her on a job well done.
She would love that.
Raising you. So I do want to shift for a minute and ask a more quote unquote serious question. With regard to news, in the last couple of years, news has just felt like a whirlwind across the board. But one of the things that I like about network news, the ABCs, the CBS, the NBCs, versus cable, which has seemed to just decide that we're just going to be, the talking head networks, right? Where it's just, there's still news in almost name only. And I'm not trying to put anybody down, but whereas network, I feel, is still trying its damnedest to toe the line of objectivity. Why do you think that has managed to stay the course with network news, where, again, we're seeing cable go in a different direction, but, network, and look, I my day job is marketing, so I can make the argument of like, if network was smart, the ratings are going down, shift to what's working on cable, the ratings are, their ratings are doing great, blah, 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 right? But that's not what it's about. But why do you think network has kind of said, no, we can't go that route?
I think that has a lot to do with the foundation. It's what ABC was built on, just providing the facts, providing the news, and never shifting despite cable news having its success. And I love that I get to work for a company that really tries to stay down the middle. And and even during the Trump years, it was a difficult time for everybody for various reasons. But in news, it was, I clearly remember, producers and everybody being very cautious as to not appear to be on one side or the other and just present the facts. And I respect that. And it can be challenging. And I think maybe that's why a lot of other networks have kind of gone in a different direction. But I think it has to do with just how ABC started and how that's been just its history of providing you with the facts. That's the legacy. We are storytellers, but we're going to provide the truth and just, what it is. Like, it's not my job to go to a scene and just gather an opinion. It's like I'm gathering the editorial. And obviously, if you work on a different beat, if you work at the White House, it's going to be different because you have to decipher some of the spin, whatever, right, regardless of the administration there. But it's not our job to give you an opinion. I think that's, like you said, that's been its legacy, and that's what they continue to do, and that's why I'm still there.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say I don't watch cable news for that reason. My news consumption is more, I call it, I know they're all networks, but I call network, over the air. I'm old school that way, right? But also like even the local stations is where I go for my news, because I want you to report it. I don't want you to tell me what to think, and I think you guys do a great job of that. And kudos, because it's also not easy to maintain that when you've got, I don't know, how many hours is GMA on now? Like 17? It's
2 hours, 7 to 9. And then, GMA to be the third hour, and kind of airs it depending on where you are.
But
sorry, that's my dog.
No, it's all. Listen, I live for the ambient noise of these interviews because it makes it real. It's like, this is a human being that I'm talking to, not not an AI program somewhere. But what I was saying is, but again, you have so much time to cover with content that it would be very easy to just slip into that. You know what? Screw it. We've got an hour left. Just let's go that route. And it's a slippery slope down the rabbit hole, to mix metaphors.
You're absolutely right. And it's like you said, it's not our job. We're reporting the facts, and it's up to you to gather your own opinion. Here are the facts. Here's what happened. Here's what we're working with. And then you can have that conversation at home with your friends, with your family, and gather your own opinion. And I think that's what ABC has done for so many years, and a lot of the networks too, NBC, CBS.
Well, Stephanie, I know you're really busy. I know, you've probably you've got to go walk the dog, if nothing else. Probably.
My husband took care of her. He says hi. He says hi.
Because when dogs are starting to bark, it's either I need to go out or I'm hungry. It's like never.
Yeah, it's the mailman. She saw the mailman.
Oh, okay.
The classic dog wants to go after the mailman scenario every single day.
You know that somebody
hanging with me.
came up with, I think, the psychological reason that they hate the mail person, right? I don't know if you've heard this.
Stranger, like stranger danger, stranger approaching house.
It's
I don't know.
Well, yeah, but it's this stranger who shows up every day at the same time, so they feel like this person is constantly a threat, and they just show up and then they disappear. They show up and they disappear. So again, I'm not a dog psychologist, and I don't know how they gathered this because dogs don't talk to my knowledge. But yeah, that was the theory. Yeah.
That makes sense. I mean, when you say it out loud, it is a little creepy. It's like the same person shows up to your door and then he leaves. And then, but yeah, the dog doesn't know he's delivering mail. So I get it.
Yeah. So, that's going to be our new podcast, Dog Psychology, with me and Stephanie Ramos. We're coming this fall.
Let's do it, man. I need something else. I need something else to be busy.
No.
I need another hobby.
Okay, I was going to say, you are plenty busy, my lady. Like, you don't need anything else to take up your time, and you've got kids. So I know your day is full.
I go to Starbucks, or I don't drink coffee, but I get those refreshers at Starbucks, and they really help.
You don't drink coffee? How does your Dominican mother feel about this?
I know she doesn't drink coffee either. It's her.
Okay, all right.
I know. Dad's Puerto Rican. He was never drinking coffee. So yeah, I never stuck. I mean, I did definitely see the Café Bustelo lata every once in a while, but I think there was something else in there. There weren't any.
Listen, we were upcycling before it was a thing. All right, between the coffee cans, the Royal Don's cookie cans, the Keebler cans, we've been reusing since before it was cool.
Yes, sir. Yes, that is accurate. Well, I will have to ping you whenever I'm in Miami next, which should be soon.
Yes, please.
I always love to go to Don Pang, but if you have any other bakery recommendations, let me know.
Well, I've got a lot of bakery recommendations because I'm a fat boy, but I also will always recommend to anybody who's come. I don't know when the last time was you were down here, but Sandwich on 8th Street, and they're about to actually. I don't own stock in this place, so I'm promoting it totally out of because they're really
we're
good.
Totally promoting it. Okay,
but they're about to open one here in the
accept
Gables. It's so good. Like if you're just looking for like a good classic high quality like Cuban sandwich or pan con lechon,
I need that in my life. Oh, thank you. Oh my goodness, you have no idea. One day. Yes, I will look them up. Thank you.
Of course, and thank you for taking the time to chat with us. I mean, I know our listeners can find you on ABC on all times of the day, really, depending on the day. But if for those of you,
24-hour correspondent.
But you can also follow Stephanie online, on Instagram. Your handle is at the Stephanie Ramos, right?
You got it. Yes, the Stephanie Ramos.
Yeah,
yes.
And occasionally, she may sing or dance on Instagram and give you a peek behind into that performing arts, high school heart that she still carries around with her.
It's still in me. It's hard. I sing here at home all the time. And I think the last big event that I sang at was when we first moved back here to the New York City area in 2019. And Barclays needed somebody to sing the national anthem at the Knicks-Nets game.
Nice.
And I told my husband, I was like, I don't want to do it. I love New York. Gosh, I love New York. But I'm like, the pressure, I got to prepare. Yeah. Like, I was so busy. I was like, I don't know if I want to do it. And he looked at me and he says, are you kidding me? You have to do this. Our boys need to see you perform, because I hadn't performed in a few years. And then before that, they were too little. They didn't remember. They were babies. So he said, we're back in New York City. We had lived in D.C. for 4 years. We're back in New York City. It's at the Barclays. It's Nets, Knicks. Come on.
How much New York can it get?
I know. Very, very New York. So did it, but short story for you. I got there a few hours earlier to prepare. I was in the green room, and then my husband showed up with 2 boys, and my oldest, who is now 11, he was 8 at the time, and he walks into the green room and he says, Mama, you don't have to do this. He was shook. He was so nervous for me because he had to walk through the arena, so he saw the people, he saw the players, and it was just this. It was so big. He was a little stunned, and he's like, "Mama, you don't have to do this." I said, "It's okay. I've done this before. We can do it. We can knock it out." And anyway, did it. He was proud, but you see, like my husband took a video while I was up there singing, and he pans down to show Xavier, and he's just got his hands over his mouth like this, covering his nose and his mouth. He's like watching. I know, it's the sweetest moment, but they had a good time, and it's something that they'll remember. So I'm glad that I went through with it. But that was the last time, and now I just sing in the GMA hallways like a nut.
Well, listen, I'm sure George Stephanopoulos appreciates it. All right. Well, Steph, again, thank you. I'm calling you Steph, like if we've known each other for years now. But thank you again for taking the time and chatting with us. And,
Absolutely.
Listen, again, whenever you're in town, please feel free to reach out and I'll give you some recos. We'll meet up I would usually say un cafecito, but since you don't drink, I guess I can make the effort for a happy hour. Instead, okay. We can figure that one out too.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And I love what you guys are doing. You guys are funny and I listen all the time.
Oh, thank you. See, that means a lot to us because, we just put it out into the universe and we hope somebody's hearing it and enjoying it, even though we see the numbers. But again, imposter syndrome over here, is like, is that real? Is it really happening? So thank you so much for that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Cuídate.
All right. Nos vemos. Bye.
Bye. Pero Let Me Tell You is co-hosted by Darian Borges and Ismaeliano, produced by Ismaeliano, and our theme, Pero Let Me Tell You Freestyle, is composed by Michael Angelo Lomlaplex, the official gay guy. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes.